Hello and welcome back to another episode of College Football UK. I am your host Fletch, and as ever I am joined by two absolute stunners. We don't have Gary this week because he's off gallivanting and enjoying himself without us, which is just not on. It's not okay. But instead, I'm gladly joined by Nick and Sam. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah, good.
All good.
So, if you are in the UK, you'll know that we're recording on a Friday night. We record on Friday night. There's been a lot of craziness the last couple of days. We're here to hopefully give you a little bit of reprieve from that this week and give you a little bit of reprieve from the craziness of everything that's going on at the moment. And let's just talk some football and have some fun. Now, today we're going to go knee deep We'll go as deep as we can into the group of 5 conferences and have a look at some of the teams to look out for. Maybe have a prediction of some division winners, conference winners of our own. But first and foremost, I think we should just go straight into it and talk about some of the news this week, of which there has been very little. But Nick, I am very aware that you have been quite busy this week and keeping your eye on a lot of very exciting things going on.
Well, I wouldn't want to be accused of not doing anything, so I found something to do. So the Rivals camp has been going this week. For those that don't know, the Rivals camp is for the top 100 rated prospects in the country, and it's mainly those high schoolers that are moving on to college. So it's basically like a college version of the combine. Excuse me. So at the event they do 1-on-1s, they do 7-on-7s, and it's just a chance for these players to show their skills, and from there they get rated. Most of them have decided where they're going already, so it doesn't really matter. Some commitments while the camp was ongoing. Offensive line, 5-star rated offensive lineman, SJ Alofotuli. I think that's right. He's committed to Miami, ahead of Michigan and Nebraska. So, sorry about that, Fletch. You lost out on him.
Right.
5-star wide receiver Decoria Moore announced he's going to commit to Oregon. LeVar Arrington Jr., his dad was a Pro Bowler in the NFL. He's committed to Penn State. And 4-star rated Justin Hill has committed to Alabama over Ohio. So I suppose there's a silver lining for you. And at camp, Tavian St. Clair of Ohio State won the QB MVP award. So that was what went on at the camp. Basically, like with the combine, they do the stats and whatever else, and they rate the players, and they rate the teams based on the teams have got these players coming to camp, and so. Coming out of camp, the best performing SEC teams were Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Florida, and Oklahoma. The best performing Big Ten teams were Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and USC. And then the best performing ACC teams were Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, and SMU. So,
Amazing.
and the last bit on my list from the Rivals is, from all that, they've given us the top 8 most exciting prospects of the year. Now, this is not necessarily the best players. These are the ones to look out for and expect them to have a good year to entertain you. You've got wide receiver Barry Brown of Kentucky, quarterback Byron Brown of USF, University of South Florida, running back Ollie Gordon II of Oklahoma, running back Omarion Hampton of North Carolina, wide receiver Travis Hunter of Colorado, running back Ashon Gentry of Boise State, and then 2 QBs, Jalen Milroe of Alabama, and Caden Salter of Liberty. So that was everything out of the Rivals camp this week. And that's my week done. I'm done now. See you later.
Love it. Where, how did you keep up to date with a lot of the Rivals stuff?
I spent a lot of time on the NBC Sports website all day. So I just went on it. I went on every couple of hours or so and just had a flick through, and it's got like a stat and a leaderboard and everything else as the camp goes on, and you can go on the official Rivals website as well, and there's a leaderboard on there. I didn't find a feed to watch, like you can watch the combine go on while it's. I didn't find a feed to watch the camp. That's not to say that there wasn't one. But so yeah, I just kept basically flicking back to NBC Sports every few hours and just checked on what was going on, and then as the thing finished and everyone put in their data and whatever, they did like a review. So just trawled through all that.
Lovely. And one of the really good places as well to find out some of that information. I nowhere near as much as you did, Nick. But obviously places like 24/7 Sports and ON31, whatever the actual verbalization of that name is, are also great at things like that. And they are, for the most part, free resources that you can find on the internet, such as well as NBC, that you can keep on top of. If you want to get that deep into college football, most of us who get into college football, we're only bothered about the bit where they leave and go into the NFL. If you want to kind of look into that side of things, that's great to see. And Sam, did you keep on have a look at any of this? Because I know that it wasn't all that long ago you were talking to us about recruits and whatnot.
I didn't know. I've not really had the time to keep up with it, but I tend to keep an eye out sort of a bit later on, sort of looking for draft players, just because I do a lot of Derby leagues. So it's all those players you've mentioned will be on probably a multitude of my lists I keep for when we draft next year, when they actually are committed to teams officially, rather than just committing to teams until ones that are actually on camp. So they'll probably, a lot of them will probably pop up on my lists in a couple of years' time.
Awesome. So one thing as well, I think that's actually can be quite interesting to mention is around this time anyway, you see a lot of committals and commitments from high school players going to college. A lot of those at this moment in time are verbal commitments. So don't always expect, if someone says, "Oh, I commit to Michigan," don't necessarily expect them to be signing on to Michigan in a few months' time. They could very well change their commitment. So
there are times where you see some high schoolers, I think they could change commitments 4 or 5 times before they actually settle on who they go to, even right up until before they're like a week before they're expected to, be on campus. They've made a commitment to someone else. It can be a bit sort of mental. So I always try and avoid looking at that's why I'm not too fussed about the fact that Longhorns clearly didn't do very well at the Rivals. I'm not that fussed at that because they do well later on when they start getting those sort of later committals.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's the transition of stages, because the transfer portal opens, so people start moving, and you're not going to transfer unless you're going to commit to that transfer. So these transfers that start happening as the portal opens, they're like set in stone. They're ones that so as these start to tail off as the best players in the portal have gone, that's when the commitments start coming from the younger guys that are coming up, and you're in that mode of like, oh well, he's signed, and like you said, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but you can at least sort of gather a ballpark as to who your college, who your team is looking at.
Yeah, and how well they're performing, even if it's in the early stages. I know Michigan following a lot of the writers for Michigan and things like that go on, and following a lot of friends who are Michigan fans, they pay a bit more attention to this than I do. So I've been enjoying watching them. And it looks to me, I'm aware that Michigan hasn't, under Jim Harbaugh, weren't exactly the greatest at recruiting. They did get in trouble by the NCAA for the recruiting practices a few years ago. But, trouble in Michigan under Jim Harbaugh was nothing new. But, it feels this year that Michigan are putting an extra bit of stock into the recruitment side of things. But, like you say, these things can and will change as time goes on. But it is a good early indicator as to how aggressive your team's being as far as commitments goes and trying to snap up those early talents coming through from high school. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say a lot of it is all posturing as well. I mean, for those that watch the NFL and that are aware of the combine and what have you else, one of the big things is the 40-yard dash. When is that ever relevant? When do you see it? Yes, in a 40-yard dash you can assess how quick the guy is from a standing start. But so do the 10-yard dash. if that's really what you're issuing.
You're never going to be that fussed by an O-liner doing the 40-yard dash, are you, realistically?
Exactly, but it's like at the Rivals they had Harlan Berry. He was the fastest man, and he did like 4.3 seconds, and it's like, he's at LSU and he's a wide receiver, but he's like, he's faster. He's a faster runner than he is a better catcher. But it's like, when do you need a 40-yard dash? Like, let's measure it over 10 yards. That's what counts. That's what counts. But I think you have to take it all with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, but like I say, it comes into the camp when we look at things like the combine. You're right, because except for on like your Hail Mary type plays, or where you've got someone whose job is just simply to run up the sideline. No player's running further than 15 yards without either doing a slant, dropping back, turning. There's a whole route tree that's involved. And if you're getting jammed up on the 2nd-yard line by a DB, great that you can run fast, but if your back's on the floor, it's not a good place to be. No one cares if you're fast if you're lying on your back. So
yeah, there's very few times, unless there's blown coverage, where you will actually see even like the likes of like Tyreek Hill, who are absolutely rapid, and A-Chain and all of those. You'll never actually get to witness their full speed in a straight line. It just never, very rarely happens. But it's what I think they should be doing more of, and I get why they probably don't do it, because it's protection of the players and that. But doing something more like shuttle running, and that has a bit more like, I know they do a little bit later on with some of them, but just doing something like that instead of a 40-yard dash probably would be a bit more useful to see, especially from wide receivers, because no wide receiver is going to just run in a direct straight line.
No, the only time you'll ever see it rail, like say, is either on a Hail Mary, but you're being followed the whole way down, or if you manage, you make a catch on your own 30-yard line, you shake off your DB, and then it's it's just a case of who's fastest to get that. Can you get caught by a DB or not? It's very, very rare. But as you were mentioning there, as some of the teams who performed best over the weekend in various different conferences, it actually leads me on to the next point next thing I wanted to speak about quickly in this episode, is that a lot of these conferences that we spoke about before have officially changed this week. We have been aware of the realignments for quite a while, but a number of those officially took place on the 1st of July this week. So as of now, I'm only going to read the new teams or the gains for a particular conference rather than going through every conference name by name and telling you which one's different. So the ACC have gained Cal, SMU, and Stanford. That was official this week. The Big Ten have officially now have Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington. The Big 12 now officially have Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. The Pac-12, this one's slightly different. They are now officially 2 teams. It is now 110% official that it's now the Pac-2. The SEC have officially added, as of this week, Oklahoma and Texas. The AAC have officially added Army. And Conference USA added a D2 school who got promoted up to D1 this week in Kennesaw State.
That Big Ten has got very competitive. Don't sleep on that conference.
I know we're going to be coming on to the other bits in a bit, but I saw Kennesaw State against a lot of the teams that we're going to come on to, and I was looking at them thinking, who the hell are they? So that makes sense that they've just got promoted, because I'd never even heard of that place before.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't heard of it too much until, I think it's Cy Carroll, the UK-based writer, was covering a lot of the stuff this week as it was happening, or one of the first that I saw. It's great being in the UK to a certain extent, because the news starts coming in at like 12, 1 p.m, 2 p.m. But when you've got guys like Cy Carroll, when you wake up and you're off to work at 7:30 and you've actually got college stuff coming through on your Twitter timeline, it's great. I love it. But yeah, so he was the first person I'd seen mention Kennesaw State. I didn't even know about that one.
You want to get up early. The day's half gone at 7:30. Some of us have started work at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Day's half gone at 7:30, mate. Get up.
I'm only just going to bed at that time. I'll have you know. I spend probably about the same amount of hours awake, but I shift more onto Eastern time.
Oh, right, okay.
And basically live on Eastern time, so that was, yeah. Anyway, moving on. So, are you ready for your favourite bit of the week?
Oh, yeah, great, brilliant.
I'm very excited. About it. So, I don't necessarily expect you to get all of this, but we'll see. 3 Heisman Trophy winners have gone on to play major league sports in sports other than football. They can have played football before, but have played major league sports in another sport. Can you name me any of those 3?
Are we saying that they have to have played at least one major league game?
Yeah, at least played major. So Kyler Murray doesn't count, even though I
was going to say, because he was one that I was thinking.
Yeah. He is signed for an MLB team, but has not played baseball professionally. But Heisman Trophy winners who played a game or 2 in a major league sport that isn't football.
I have no idea. I'll be honest.
No, I don't.
I feel like you should, Sam. So, one of the most famous ones being Bo Jackson, who went and had a career with the Rams for a few years. Oh no, I apologise. It was the Raiders he went to, not the Rams.
I've never heard of that. I was like, who the hell's that?
So, Bo Jackson, who went to Auburn, had a 4-year career with the Raiders, and he played as a running back, and then ended up going to the MLB, and playing for... Who did he end up playing for? The Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
You also had Vic Janowicz, who also ended up going to...
I recognise that name.
He was... I wouldn't necessarily have fully expected that one, because it was like the 50s.
Excuse me, sir. Can I answer, please, sir? If I remember correctly, watching Swamp Kings, which obviously was about the Gators, and Aaron Hernandez, less said. What's his face? QB went to Denver Tebow. Did
Mhm.
he played
Tim Tebow.
baseball, didn't he? Didn't he play baseball? Did he win a Heisman? Did Tim Tebow win a Heisman and play baseball? I don't know.
Oh, hang on.
He was good at baseball, though. He was. I don't know whether he played a down or played a inning or whatever, but I know he was half decent at baseball.
He never played Major League.
Oh right, okay.
So he did go and sign a couple of Major League contracts, but kept getting sent down to the minors.
Right, no worries. Forget me.
But
Then.
that was a good
So
shout. That was a very good
He was
spot.
good. He just wasn't that good.
But no, that was a very good shout.
It's only because I watched Swamp Kings this week. That was all I remembered.
And so you had Vic Janowitz, who ended up playing. He reached the major leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates and played football for the Washington Redskins in the 50s. And finally, there was Charlie Ward, who had a fantastic career in college football and basketball with Florida State, refused to go to the NFL and went on to have a professional career in basketball.
Gary'd have got that.
There were a few as well. I was looking up some Heisman stats as well. Just Heisman winners, and there are quite a few. I think it was 15 who've never played a snap in the NFL.
Yeah,
and a number of which went on.
Doesn't surprise me that. It just shows you the level up you need to have to get from college up to the NFL.
This, I think we mentioned it on Hurdle the Line the other day. At the end of the day, one of the things you need to think about is the Heisman Trophy winners, especially these days, the earlier they go in the draft, the worse a situation they go to. The worse a situation you go to like that as a quarterback or as a certain position, the less likelihood for serious success that you will probably see, and you will probably just get the living snot beaten out of you for the first few years of your career. And it's why I look at Bryce Young. I always say I'm more worried that Bryce Young will be out the league in 2 years than I am that he'll see success in the league.
Yeah.
Because Carolina's just going to get the living crap beaten out of him.
Yeah. I think he has the potential to be really good. It's just like you say, when you are that good, you get put into situations where you're never going to succeed, or there's a high likelihood you won't succeed. It's a bit like I suppose in a way it's a bit like Kyler Murray at the moment. He's doing well for the Cardinals, but he's never going to unless they start really doing well. He's never really going to succeed. He'll always be just that little zippy quarterback that plays for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and look, the NFL is filled with very good quarterbacks who just, for whatever reason, whatever happens around them, will probably never reach the heights that they should. And it's why coming out of college this year, I really do hope that the trend is at the moment with quarterbacks who go on to have a bit more success is that they sit for a few months, if not a season, which is what I hope the Patriots do with Drake May. And I hope he gets to sit for a bit and learn the game from the bench, get used to the NFL speed from there, and then pick up. And that's the likelihood that you're going to have more success with him.
Yeah. It's the same. It's probably the same with someone like a Bo Nix. But if you were able to sit him for a year, I think having someone who you could sit for a year is so much more beneficial than having someone thrown straight in at the deep end. There are very few rookie quarterbacks that go on to have major successful careers when being the rookie from the off and playing every single snap.
It's like you look at Michael Penix; he's in the perfect place. He gets to sit behind Kirk Cousins, and you know, Kirk will play this year, and you know the way that this contract's structured, that they could quite easily play Cousins this year and then trade him and his contract for peanuts and bring Penix in next year, depending on how he progresses. But touching on Drake May, I think Drake May's probably going to spend half a season at the most on the bench, and then he'll be playing. So
yeah, because I mean,
he might even be playing by week whatever it is 9 when they come. Week 6 when they come to England.
They've only got Jacoby Brissett, haven't they? No, it's not even Jacoby. Who's the starter now?
Yeah,
it's Jacoby Brissett. Yeah,
Brisket.
Yeah. So I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if he's playing this. He plays games this season. I think, like you say, Penix is probably going to be a good one to watch. But anyway, back onto college football.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, but speaking of players who've been drafted this year, we're going to look at the group of 5 conferences. So that would be, if you've been listening the last few weeks, great. You've probably heard the same 5 conferences mentioned about 30,000 times. If not, let's just remind you one more time who those group of 5 are. That would be the All-American Conference, the Conference USA, the Mid-American Conference, the Mountain West, the Sun Belt, and, as of this week, the Pac-12. And I didn't even think of that when going through this week. The Pac-2 are now in the group of 6 because they lost their autonomous status due to only having 2 teams left in the conference. And so, again, if you're just getting into college, if you're now really early days and you've missed some of the first few episodes, the group of 5, as they were called, and now will be 6, they are a group of 6 conferences that don't have the autonomous status that the other 4 conferences have, which is something we can get into in a few episodes' time. Again, I'll go back early on to the first couple of episodes where we speak about it. So, Sam, I know you put a little bit of thought into the group of 5 this week, and I just wanted to get your thoughts first on who you're looking at this year in the group in those conferences.
So these are 5 divisions I've not really done too much. I don't have a lot of knowledge about the teams in. So because I think, especially, and it's worth noting, this is probably for a lot of people who will watch college, is these are the divisions where you probably won't see a lot. They're not the big name divisions, and that's probably especially with all the realignments and that, you're probably going to see a lot of these teams. A majority of them are probably going to be teams that you won't see much of, but they are worth keeping an eye on because they will be playing some of the other teams, the bigger teams. I think of some of the ones I looked at least 4 of them are going to be playing Michigan this year, or at least 3 of them are playing Michigan this year. So, I mean, what I've done is I've just gone through each division and sort of picked the top 3 teams who I think are going to do well in each of those divisions. So,
yeah,
I mean, I can go. I don't know how you want to do it. I can just go through each division, or if we want to just do.
I think we'll go through each division. We'll go in alphabetical order with the All-American, and so I'll set this up actually. In the All-American, your members there's 12 members split into Army, Charlotte, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, Navy, North Texas, Rice, South Florida, Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, UAB, and UTSA. So UAB is the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and UTSA being the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Yeah, so I suppose the 3 that I've looked at for this division is, for me, the team that I think are probably going to do the best, and I think it's purely just down to the fact that they seem to have the best set the best schedule for this year. And I think with retaining a lot of the players that they had on the offense from last season, this is sort of why I think that they're going to potentially do quite well. And that's the Memphis Tigers. Again, I don't really know too much about the AAC as a general rule. I do believe that they are generally one of the top teams in the division.
Yes.
So I think, they're just going to continue to be up there. The next two that I've got, and I think both of these are going to be neck and neck with where they're going to finish, and that's Tulane Green Wave, is it? And South Florida Bulls. They're the sort of the other two teams that I think are, for me, again, looking at their schedule, looking at their positions from last year, looking at sort of who they have, they were the sort of the three teams that I were looking at in terms of who I think is going to perform well, who I think are probably the teams to look out for, especially if you're new to college or you're wanting to pick up a team. You don't want to go for one of those, big four monster teams. You want to pick one who's maybe be that edgy team, or you've got a team that's maybe linked to an area you like. They're the sort of three I would look at in the AAC and keep an eye on personally.
Temple, Tulane, and Memphis always seem like really good lookings every time. But you're right, Memphis are bringing back a lot this year. Nick, have you put much thought into the AAC?
I think Tulane are probably going to be the team that I would back to win the Atlantic. The other question is whether Rice University this year are going to be boiled or fried. I don't know.
Which would you prefer?
Depends on whether I'm being healthy or not. If I'm being healthy, I'll take boiled. If I want what taste, I'll take fried, please.
See, this is why people choose. This is quality college football content. This is what people tune in for. Now, if you give me 1 second, I'm actually going to do it just kind of hit me. Now, we could do this at a later date, and that's absolutely fine. But would you like to put yourselves down? Should we do a little bit of a prediction table and get that going? We can get Gary in on it later over the weekend while he might not want to talk to us while he's at Silverstone and living the high life over there. But hang on, let me just get this fixed. So I will also speak to our previous guests and see if they would like their predictions for these for these conferences to get to go in. But
so we're just going to do who we think's going to win the division.
Yeah, go on. So who do you think is going to take the division? Sam?
Memphis Tigers.
Memphis. Nick?
Tulane.
And I'm also going to go with Memphis. So let me just write these.
The one thing that I've enjoyed about doing this, especially the ones where you're looking at the division, I don't want to say they're the less of the divisions, but the other divisions, is just looking at some of the names of the teams. I think some of them are brilliant. And I've just been enjoying looking through all of the sort of the different names of different teams and what they're called and that. Been some really interesting ones. And we'll come to the Sunbelt at the very end, but I think there's a team in there that might have my favourite name just because of, and you'll get why, but I just think it's an absolutely brilliant name.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is my favourite thing. And it's partially what I'm using to determine which team I'm going to build a dynasty with on College Football 25. It's just the name of the college and what's fun to say. So we'll move on to Conference USA. Now, as you've mentioned before, Sam, that these are some of the lesser known colleges, but there are some prestigious schools in here. There are some schools that continuously make waves throughout the world of college football. There are some teams that, as you've mentioned, like there's a few this year that are going up against Michigan, who regularly like to punch above the weight and go against the Power 4 conference teams. And there are some that you may have heard through various different modes. This is one of those kind of conferences where I think there's a couple of teams in there. So the Conference USA, you've got. Oh, hang on, let me just get this one back up again. You've got the FIU Panthers. That's the Florida International University Panthers. You've got Jackson State University, the Gamecocks, the Kennesaw State Owls, the Liberty Flames and Lady Flames, the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, the New Mexico State Aggies, the Sam Houston State Bearcats, the University of Texas at El Paso Miners, and the Western Kentucky University Hilltoppers and Lady Toppers. I think it's well. So, throwing back, I'm going to throw over to you, Nick, for this one, if that's okay.
Yep.
Who are you looking at potentially for taking that conference this year, and why?
I'm going to stick my neck out on the line and say Liberty.
That's a bold choice. That is a bold choice.
Just because, and I'll say because QB Caden Salter from Liberty is on my rivals list of 8 players to watch. So if I don't pick that man and pick his university, what have I spent the last week doing? So you know what? There you go. I'm gonna put my stats in, and I'm gonna say this last week wasn't useless. I didn't waste my time. I'm gonna go with Caden Salter and his Liberty crew.
Okay. So Nick with Liberty.
You can have me committed next week.
Well, knowing Liberty University, what do you want to commit to? There's a lot of. No, we're not getting into that today.
No.
Sam, what about yourself?
I am also going Liberty Flames. They're also my top of my. I actually have them going 12-0 this season. So make of that what you will. There are a couple of other teams which I am looking at again, which probably to keep an eye out on. West Kentucky Hilltoppers. Again, I think they're another team that always seem to do well in that division. And the Jacksonville State Gamecocks are the other ones. 2 teams that I think have the potential to be up and around the top, but I still think that their schedules are a little bit harder than Liberty's. Yeah.
No one fancied the complete outsider and saying that the brand new Kennesaw State won't just come in and take it. No, we're not going to go there. Well, I'm also not going to stick my neck out that far. And Liberty always feel like absolute money in the Conference USA. They are, again, when I say before, some of these schools are very prestigious and always seem to play with the big dogs and perform well. Liberty is one of those. But just for the sake of discourse and providing some slightly different coverage, I'll go with Jacksonville State. I know they've got a little bit of a tougher schedule this year, but, why not? I don't know. I like a slightly plucky underdog.
It's all those years being a Lions fan, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't do anything. Yeah. So, we've got Liberty for both of you gentlemen.
Liberty, Liberty, Liberty. That just always reminds me of the advert.
Yeah, that's going to be stuck in me. That's going to be stuck in my head now all weekend. Thank you very much. There we go. I apologise. I seem to have forgotten how to write in English. So I will be with you in a second. Okay, so now we're on to the Mid-American Conference. One of these being... So one of the schools in this one being the one that had the the only Group of 5 school to have a number one draft pick, a first-round draft pick last season in Toledo. But in the Mid-American Conference, you have 2 divisions, the West and the East. In the West Division, you have Ball State, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, also forgotten how to speak English, Toledo, and Western Michigan. In the East Division, you have Akron, Bowling Green, Buffalo, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, and Ohio. How are we feeling about this one, gentlemen? It's a lot of Michigans. You are on mute, Sam.
This was a division where there was a lot that played Michigan, and this is where I think it was a lot harder to pick who was going to be the team to do well. But I've gone with, I'm going to say Miami, Ohio, Redhawks. I think they had, again, just purely down to the schedule. I think it'll honestly come down to, for me, it's between them, Toledo, and North Illinois. I think those are the 3 teams where I think, depending on who wins those games between them, will win the division, or win the conference, should I say. So for me, Miami Redhawks, but I think Toledo and Northern Illinois both stand a good chance of doing well.
Toledo have done really well this off-season, and I think, again, Quinion, we mentioned it on the last couple, I've asked Ben and I asked Joe, Quinion Mitchell has done a lot for Toledo in that program, even this off-season, in making them look like what it does for how prospects are looking at the school and the opportunities that you're going to get by having a first-round draft pick, and quite a high one. He was, middle of the first round?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I say, it's done wonders for that program. Nick, how are you feeling about it?
Was he the first? He was the first cornerback off the board, wasn't he?
First defensive player off the board, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, he wasn't. He was, but first cornerback, yeah.
First cornerback, wasn't first defensive player. Yeah.
I'm going to pick one of those 2 that Sam had highlighted but didn't pick, and I'm going to go for Toledo themselves. I did think about going for Central Michigan University based on the fact that they're in Mount Pleasant, but I decided to stick with Toledo. So I'm gonna stick with the new shining light that is Toledo, based on their found stardom.
Now, you always know how much I love the home state, and as much as I would love to go with the Chippewas in Central Michigan, I don't think that is a wise decision to do. I am also going to go with Toledo. I'll stick with you. I'll go with you, Nick, there. I think, again, I think Miami are officially the favourites, aren't they, this year, for the betting favourites.
Yeah,
well, again, the amount of, again, I think, like I said, with Quinion Mitchell, I don't want to bang the drum too much, but it is understated just how important a pick like that is for a team like Toledo. The recruits that they've got in, the way that they move, and I think they're going to go into this season feeling very, very good about themselves. And in the college football realm, it's not, that can't be understated, I guess. So we've got Toledo from us. Yeah, I'm just gonna forget English now as a language. I'll figure out what I wrote tomorrow. Toledo, and Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, Miami in brackets, Ohio.
While I was saying before, Sam, as far as names go and picking a dynasty, my current idea is the Akron Zips. That name just feels satisfying to say. So that's where I'm at the moment. But I can't wait to find out where you're going, which name has taken you? No, we've not come across it yet, have we?
No, it's in the
Nope.
Sun Belt, so it'll be.
Oh yeah, you did say.
It will be
Yeah.
the last team I mention.
Okay. Waiting for it. So we'll move on to the Mountain West, where we have Air Force, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, San Diego State, San Jose State, Utah State, the UNLV, so that would be University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Wyoming. Nick.
I don't know about anybody else, but every time I see Utah State, all I want to sing is Utah Saints. If you don't know that song, look it up. I mean, when we had Joe on the other week, I talked to him about Wyoming and the fact that Josh Allen was like the one player to come out of Wyoming, and it surprised me that, you know, that one player, you know, that the university hasn't kicked on and produced more talent. So I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to go for Boise State. Again, on my list of exciting players, I've got a running back from Boise State. So again, I will stick to my homework and I will pick Boise State.
Sam.
Yeah, I'm second in Boise State. They've recently just taken on, I always get the name wrong, Malachi Nelson, who was meant to be the understudy who was to take over from Caleb Williams at USC. He left this year to join Boise State, and I think he is going to play a big part this year. So for me, that's why I'm going for Boise State Broncos. The other two teams which I have got down that I think, again, will do quite well and who I'm going to keep an eye on is Fresno State Bulldogs. They're one of them. And the other one is the University of Nevada, Las Vegas Rebels. They're the two teams which I've had a quick look at and think they could potentially do well.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of looking at Fresno State anyway, as again, I think they got a bit of a tougher schedule. They don't maybe have quite as much outright talent on the team, but again, for the sake of throwing, not doing a triple threat on Boise State, why not? I'll go with Fresno State myself. So. And then, shall we move on to the greatest conference to have ever existed, the Pac-2? Does anyone want to throw one out there? Do we want to do that one?
I'm not going to lie, I didn't even look at him, so I apologise.
Okay. So...
Who's even in that division now? I've forgotten.
So, I'm going to say, for the hell of it, we've got Oregon State and Washington State. Flip a coin. Who you having? Why not?
Oregon State.
I'll take Washington then.
Right, well, how are we going to do this? I haven't got a coin on it. No, I was going to go. I'll go with Oregon. Why not? I can tell you were thrilled to do that one. By the way,
is Oregon State? Is that the Beavers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I chose them. I like the fact that that's just an entertaining team. Just Oregon State Beavers.
You like Beavers and Nick likes Cougars. Is that where we're at? Yeah.
That's where we're going, yeah.
No comment.
Plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability, no comment.
I say I might have to change my answer now. Own it, mate. Why not? So finally, for the group of 5, we've got the Sun Belt Conference. And that includes, in the West Division, we've got Arkansas State, Louisiana Monroe, South Alabama, Southern Miss, Texas State, and Troy. In the East Division, we've got Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, Marshall, and Old Dominion. Sam, this is the bit we've all been waiting for. Come on.
So first of all, I just want to make a special mention to Appalachian State for being mentioned in the longest yard as some slack Division 2 team that gets the living kicked out
Of
of them.
course it was, yes.
So I do love to always mention them, but they are not on my top three.
But I watched a lot. My missus put the longest yard on 2 days ago, and I thought the same thing. So that's quite funny, that, yeah.
So for me, I've had a look through this division. I can't see any other winner than Texas State Bobcats. I think they are the best team in that division, in that conference. Sorry. The other team that I think could potentially do well, and they've started. Again, the schedule looks really good. Is the Arkansas Red Wolves, but the team that is probably going to be my go-to when it comes to picking a team on the new college game is going to be the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. I just love that name. The fact they're called the Raging Cajuns just always makes me smile. So they're my favorite named team. I just think it's completely completely left field. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So yeah, my favorite team is the Louisiana Raging Cajuns.
Can't argue with that from a name point of view. Absolutely not. How about you, Nick? How are you looking towards the Sun Belt Conference this year?
Not with very much excitement. I have two on my radar, not because I think they're good, for other reasons. Old Dominion University, on the basis that I quite like the country band Old Dominion. You know, they're putting out some decent tunes at the moment. So Old Dominion University have got my attention there. And the other one is Marshall University, for the basis that they're the Thundering Herd. You know, I'm just part of the Thundering Herd down the road. So, you know, I'll take it. I'll take either Old Dominion or Marshall. I'll take Old Dominion, but I do like the Thundering Herd from Marshall University.
So we've got Old Dominion, and do you just remind us, Sam, where you went with the SBC?
Texas State Bobcats.
Texas State. Let me just, because the list I have, on some of them it gives you the team name, on some of them it doesn't, and it's really annoying.
Who do you want?
So, no, I was just trying to see if I could find another name that was interesting. So, I look here, Old Dominion and Marshall are regularly well-known teams.
The Chanticleers? Coastal Carolina University are nicknamed the Chanticleers. University of Louisiana at Monroe are called the Warhawks.
That's a very American name, that. Warhawks.
Oh, I like this one. The University of Troy are called There Was an Issue Loading This Page. I like that one. That's out there. No, they are the...
They're the Trojans.
The Trojans. South Alabama, you've got the the rest of them. The Golden Eagles, how cheesy is that? I'm going to rock with Appalachian State, though. Why not? That's who I'm going to ride with. I think when I was looking at a few, there are a couple that have them. I think this is one of those divisions where the favourite is, depending on where you look, depends on who the favourite can be. And it's always pretty close. And I know Appalachian State are there and thereabouts. So by process of the longest yard, I will rock with Appalachian State.
That slack 2 division team that's going to get the living shit kicked out of them.
But notice how in the longest yard they were a Slack Division 2 team, but they are now a Division 1 team. Conference realignment. So Appalachian State itself is just fun to say as well. I think on its own.
Yeah.
So,
but this is the beauty of the fact that, I mean, there's 164 teams, and there's just some absolutely cracking names across all of the teams out there and all the conferences. But
yeah, and a lot of them, the history of some of these colleges as well. So some of these colleges will have been named in the 1910s when whatever they were called was a relevant thing, but it's no longer a relevant thing. It's an animal that went extinct. It was a local something that no longer kind of, in the wider world of football, no one else kind of gets, but it's a local thing. But I do want to know why Raging. In fact, let's see if Google can tell us.
Have a look why they're called the Raging Cajuns. I'm assuming they must be quite a spicy team. Hey.
You can tell he's a dad now, can't you?
Appalachian State are based in Boone. Boone is famous for Howard's Knob.
Boone is also in Big Bang Theory as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So is Howard, but I don't think it's his knob they're talking about.
So, the Raging Cajuns.
Not only is Howard's Knob in Boone, but also Elk Knob State Park.
Oh. Big fan of knobs in Boone.
Well,
so, according to RagingCajuns.com, for the first 60 years, through 3 name changes, the university had kept the nickname of the Bulldogs. The mascot was identified by an actual bulldog that would lead the team onto the field before most of the football games. Then in the early 1960s, and as an effort to fire up the football team, coach Russ Falkenberry called his team the Raging Cajuns, since 95% of the football team was from the
Mexico
Acadiana area. It was then decided by the sports information director, Bob Henderson, to honour the team and the Cajun heritage by calling them the Raging Cajuns. The nickname of the Bulldogs was replaced in 1962. Not long after, this was shortened to Raging Cajuns. The Raging Cajuns athletics were on the rise.
There you go.
There's your... So essentially, it was to honour, and if you are from the Acadiana region area, and I have butchered your town's name, please let me know, and I am very, very sorry. But that is the reason they ended up getting called the Raging Cajuns, and it seems to be just a fun name that stuck.
Well, they are going to be one of my potential long-term dynasty teams on the college game.
The Raging Cajuns is also the nickname of the Louisiana-based U.S. Marine Corps Reserve Squadron BMF 143.
It's obviously quite it's quite important to it's quite knowledgeable to the area. Then it's quite a known thing.
So, if only Coach Falkenberry knew what monster he was going to create with the Raging Cajuns. But, as has been mentioned, out of those 5 conferences, or shall we say 6 now, one of them will get an automatic berth into the college football playoffs. And then, however the seeding falls, those that are in the top 25 may also get a throw at the playoffs. So, I will read you your predictions one more time. So, Nick, for the AAC, you went Tulane. AAC was Tulane. Conference USA was Liberty. The MAC was Toledo. The Mountain West was Boise State. Pac-12, you went with Washington. And the Sun Belt Conference, you went with Old Dominion. And then, Sam, you went with Memphis for the AAC, Liberty for the Conference USA, with the University of Miami, Ohio for the MAC, Boise State for the Mountain West, Oregon for the Pac-12, and Texas State for the Sun Belt Conference. Out of those teams that you have selected, which of those do you feel has the best chance of making it into the top 25 and getting the automatic playoff spot?
Well, for me, there's two teams that I have going 12-0, which are the Bobcats and the Flames. So I'm going to go with the Liberty Flames as my team to make the playoffs, or to have the best chance. And just because now then I can sing the song, the tune for the advert.
No, we'll leave that there. I will shout out as well. By the way, I went with Memphis for the AAC, Jacksonville State for the Conference USA, Toledo for MAC, Fresno State for Mountain West, Oregon State for Pac-12, and Appalachian State for the SBC. And I will throw it out there that Memphis is my shout for the top spot in an automatic playoff berth.
And I will have Tulane.
Tulane. Okay.
Tulane. The Green Wave.
I thought you were going to do like a jingle for them then. I was going to we'll submit this to Tulane, the Green Wave themselves. So, and let me just check one more thing before we wrap up, because I feel that this is a nice place to start wrapping up. Because as of now, I think this is where there's so much to cover in college football and so many things that we want to kind of build up towards that we are starting a little early. But so are quite a few others starting to kind of do some of those predictions. So this week we've done Group of 5, and that next week we shall be looking at a couple of the autonomous 4 conferences. I've currently got it listed as the ACC and the Big 12 that we can look at, but we might switch that up slightly, but we'll see. Then after that, on that note, in 10 days' time, we can download College Football 25. Well, me and Sam can. And Nick, you can listen to us talk about how we've downloaded College Football 25.
I can actually download it if I really wanted to. I'm not banned.
And then, so I think that week we'll do something a bit more around the release of the game. And then we'll get into the Big Ten and SEC. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening and talking Group of 5 with me.
No worries.
I will speak to Gary, and I will get him to throw his predictions, and we'll put them out over the socials over the next few weeks. And I will speak to Joe and Ben and see if they would like to join us in their predictions, and try and see if we can hold us all accountable to our predictions this season. Until then, enjoy listening to us talk about. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us talk about the Group of 5, and we will see you next week. Thank you, boys.
See you later.